Hello guys, and we are back with Zach, and today's topic of the video is communism in different parts of the world, specifically Europe and Asia. Like we both, me and Zach, Cambodian Khmer, comes from like post-communist countries, yeah. And so yeah, we didn't live under the communism, but still many things maybe left after the communist times. Like for example in Russia it's like architecture, commie blocks, like some habits when I was a kid. There still were like some Soviet things, many Soviet things, and still exists today. Also I traveled to quite a few communist countries like former Yugoslavia, like Bosnia, Croatia, no, Serbia, Montenegro, Indonesia, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, China, and yeah, Yugoslavia post-communist, but some countries still communist. Well, I haven't been to South America, yeah, but I haven't been to South America. That's why we don't talk about it. South American communist countries like Venezuela, still kind of socialist communist, Cuba, yeah. And Zach, I wanted to ask you, like, maybe what communist or post-communist countries have you been to, if you've been to?
I mean, no, I haven't been to a communist country actually. The only country I've been
louder a little bit.
No, I don't think I've been to like any communist countries, like post-communist countries either. So no, the likelihood that I've ever been in a communist society is very unlikely. Yeah, I've only been in a few parts of the world, so and fortunately those countries are democracies by theory. So yeah, that's my luck.
So guys, let's make the live stream like yesterday, but today we're gonna take attention to your questions more. But first I still prepared some questions
to get things started.
Yeah, and you guys think about your questions to ask about communist or post-communist countries, or maybe some stories to tell, because I know some of my subscribers are from post-communist countries, for example. Yeah guys, and write please how is the connection. Wow, I see Wildcat Lila here, the Update AI podcast. Yeah,
isn't she like a very
loyal fan? Yeah, Lila is the most loyal fan. She is my first secretary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
you need friends. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so yeah, by the way, first thing I just remembered about communism, but to ask you, actually it's not the most important, but it's just the first which came into my mind. So in Soviet Union we had such thing as tuniatstvo. It translates kind of like parasiting, you know. For example, if you don't work, they would fine you or force you to work. So there was no way. Oh my god, I forgot about begging link.
What?
Begging link.
What's that?
No, the donation link, begging.
Oh, okay.
So will it work? Food stamps, you see, you collect today for food stamps, like
food stamps.
Yeah, but in capitalist countries they also have food stamps.
I thought that exists only in SSSR.
No, in America they still have food stamps. But yeah, here I put the hammer and sickle.
Like soup kitchens. Oh, I see.
Yeah, so guys, it's working. But yeah, we had such thing as tuniatstvo. It's kind of parasiting, you know, parasite.
Like parasite, yes.
Yeah, so for example, if you don't work, don't do anything, you would be considered to be a parasite of society.
Oh, you like mean purge? Like
I don't know this word, but yeah, no, kind of like
oh, it's like if you don't work or if you are not seen as fit for society.
Yes, they won't kill you, but they would force you to work, send you to working camp or something like that.
Oh no, that's not our solution.
Yeah, but no, did you have it here?
Yes, of course we did. Like
because do you know Belarus?
I know Belarus.
In Belarus it still exists.
Really?
For example, you can't not working. If you don't work, you pay higher taxes, like
what the hell, Belarus? Like, can't you just chill? No, I mean, like, we had those times. Like, we did have a time, those, like, very dark parts, like when I mentioned to you yesterday about the genocide and everything. It was basically like, yes, there were mass killings, but those death, the percentage of the death that resulted from, like, unnatural death, basically straight out murder, was accounted for like only a percentage. But most of the population of Cambodia died during those Maoist time, were literally died out from like starvation, like literally just died out of starvation. So that's to your point there. Like, people didn't have anything to eat, basically.
No, yeah, yeah, it's interesting.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. You know what
So
about Pol Pot, for example? I've heard his saying. I don't know if it's a real saying or
sorry.
not. Yeah.
Maybe I got out of context a little bit about saying that didn't get to eat. Like, people, they didn't have anything to eat, and literally, if that's I got confused a little bit with this answer, like, question, because people didn't literally, like, they didn't have, for one, they didn't have anything to eat, and there was straight out murder.
So you mean like it just was like so bad time, so it wasn't even the question about like working
Yeah,
or
no,
something.
no, literally, that's why
But
I was
yeah,
confused.
but you know what
Because
I meant not even like Pol Pot, but after it maybe the late
no, oh yeah,
80s. Do you know?
that's a little bit controversial. So, yes, there were like, there's something called K5, which is a place where, if not like undesirables, basically men, Cambodian men of working age, of labor age, were sent to the frontier, what we were calling the frontier, because you have to remember that the country just um, experienced a civilization-ending event, which was the genocide, and the only we were the Socialist Republic of Cambodia, which was the Cambodian government of Phnom Penh, in Phnom Penh, in the
Wildcat tipped $10 for 7-Eleven food stamps.
He's Scottish. I don't even know how to say this. His language very difficult. No, yeah, in English they speak, but Scottish like more respectful.
Thank you, the
Well,
Scottish accent.
well,
Um,
Wildcat, you see. Well, Wildcat, thank you very much, but I'm telling you in Russian accent because I can't
to a
say
Scottish accent.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Wow,
From
Wildcat, thank you very much. Yeah, you see, capitalist distraction came to us, like
Fair
our
enough.
communist talks,
Well,
food stamps, support, welfare. Thank you, Wildcat. Wow. But yeah, what we talked about.
the K5 thing.
Yeah, what's that?
So, like, they literally sent men of Cambodian men to of labor age to the borders and the frontier, because at that point, Cambodia, the government itself, weren't able to like secure the border areas between Thailand and everything, because they were still heavily infested with the Khmer Rouge, because of Cambodia's geographic density of like tropical density. So these men of labor age were sent to the jungles to cut down the you know
No,
the
like to
forest.
military, you mean?
No,
Or to
literally.
support military, like cut
Yes, of
forests,
course,
like.
because we didn't have any engineering corps, we didn't have any equipment. Literally, Cambodian men of working age, of labor age, and this was of like government occupied Cambodia, because you have to understand that there were factionism in Cambodia everywhere. So this was the government's attempt to literally instill power, and I find that this was necessary. If you look from the point of history, and because I'm not from that generation, that it was necessary to secure the border areas and everything. But unfortunately, it resulted in the deaths of like 10,000 Cambodian men, of like from malaria. I don't know the exact numbers, but like from yeah,
From illnesses.
from
Like.
illnesses. Yeah,
Wow, Dev Daddy AI,
that's a long
he
question.
is like writing. K5 Belt or K5 Project, also known as the Bamboo
Yes,
Curtain,
that's the
was an
one.
attempt between 1985 and 1989 by the government of the People's Republic of Cambodia
Yes,
to seal Khmer Rouge guerrilla infiltration roads.
that's correct. That's
Well,
the one.
do you know how we call Khmer Rouge in Russian?
No.
We call red Khmers.
Yeah, I know.
Because
A lot of
Rouge,
people-
is it red in French?
Yes,
or
yes, that's correct.
Ah,
Because we were a French influenced country. That's why they called themselves Khmer Rouge,
I see.
Red
see.
Khmer. But
Yeah,
there were
in Ra-
different like factionism. There were blue Khmers, there were white Khmers. The
Oh.
blue were the Republicans. They were leftist. Rightist.
Uh,
And then the white Khmers were like the centralist Khmers. Yeah.
and Pol Pot, who was here?
Khmer Rouge, the red Khmer, communism is associated with red color.
Yeah.
Like
But-
you're wearing red right now.
Yeah, it specifically didn't change
Yeah.
the before the red.
Yeah. The
You
red.
speak perfect English, Zach.
Thank
Yeah.
you. You too.
Push likes, guys. It's for free. Socialist way.
Yeah, you have a native accent. It's great, bro. I'm from Detroit, man.
Yeah, like.
Just kidding.
I've heard some Pol Pot saying expressions that he said it's better to go too far in implementing the communist ideology than not to go enough.
Yeah.
That was his ideology.
Yeah. He also had. That was his ideology.
Like doesn't matter how many people
die.
we need to get to the communist
Yeah.
because it will be better, as he thought.
Yeah. The dude was a radio. He went to France to study radio operation, like radio operatings and everything. So he came back to the country, but his time in France, he became fanaticalized with communism and everything. Came back and everything. So when his ideology was he regarded. So communism at that time was very diluted. Not a lot of information were able to flow, and not a lot of people are educated as of now. When after the fall of communism, but during the time, like he implemented, like there was a saying like you just mentioned now, but there was a more extreme saying, like like the saying earlier was a disregard of life, but the saying I'm gonna say is gonna be controversial. He said, if keeping you doesn't benefit me, killing you doesn't cost me.
Wait, let me to understand it. Can you say again?
If keeping you does not benefit me, killing you doesn't cost me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like it means like you doesn't like he took the time to think of like a huge diss to like diss you, to say like you don't value, you ain't shit to me.
Yeah, you know what don't really understand about Pol Pot? That okay, like this killings were everywhere in Soviet Union and China.
Yeah.
But usually they would kill some, for example, ideological enemies,
Yeah, that's the
politicians.
thing.
But for example, if you would kill too many people, you won't profit from it. Like
No.
for example, if I was
could
like
only kill
crazy
so much,
dictator, for example, I would better send them to working camps to work for
Gulags
me.
or,
So it will profit more than like just to kill.
kill you.
Because if
But-
it's like just simple guy, he's not a threat.
That's
I just re-education camp, working camp.
But that's the thing.
That's what I don't
like,
understand.
We don't understand. Like, there has been like the tribunal, and I think that's why the younger generation in Cambodia don't look forward instead backwards, because we couldn't comprehend what was going on. Like it was educated people who could read were killed and everything. So who were able to, the people who were able were our parents, the ones that were educated and everything. But you have to understand that every country only exists not just because they have drawn borders, but institutions. So institutions were destroyed, nothing was kept, no records. So people were unable to know what happened. Like, so for us, we were unable to like for my younger generation, from my generation, because our parents were directly the ones who were affected. Like you have to understand, Cambodia's population is young because like the birth rate during the like the 80s and the 70s were terrible. A whole generation was wiped out, and so my father's generation, the ones who survived the war, were literally like 1953 independence, 1970 war straight off. My father was, since independence, he's like the second generation of Cambodians after the independence, and I'm the third generation. That means like
From French, you mean independence? Yeah.
like, but I exist in 2025, right? As I 25 years old, a 25-year-old. So you can see the disturbance in like generational, like natural generational growth of people. I'm like distorted. So for us, we just couldn't understand, why were you killing each other? Why were you killing your own people? At least if you could just let them work in terrible conditions. But no, I remember my mother having to mention that she had to eat watermelon seeds, like
Do
dried.
you know in some countries they eat them?
Yeah, but this was her only survival.
In
She
this
had,
case, I
yeah, she had
understand.
to steal watermelon seeds in order to survive, and that's just like one generation before me. I'm like, for us, we try to understand what happened, but it wasn't. It was, now it was a taboo for at least 10, 20 years because of national reconciliation, because the war didn't end after the liberation. It ended only during
You mean like civil war?
yeah,
Right.
it only ended like when I was born, like in the 2000. So for us, it's hard
There
to
was
come.
some amnesty, I think.
Yeah,
Amnesty
yeah.
for
That's why we didn't.
guerrilla
Yeah,
warriors,
reconciliation.
Khmer
Khmer Rouge.
Rouge.
Yeah, to come back to the city and to like
Wow.
reunify. But that's the thing, because the disturbance in generational, like generation, like how generations are supposed to happen, that didn't happen, and it only happened now. And for us, it was a taboo thing to talk about. And then only now we are only able to understand. Oh, it's because it's a war of class, because the there wasn't anything of like regarding nationalism or anything. It was just because the people in the city, the people in the countryside felt that the people living in the city betrayed them, and were looking down upon them. So it was a war of like a social war, a war of social classes basically, and that's why there was such extreme cases of killing. Like, have you heard there was that tree in Phnom Penh, the in the genocide museum, where they killed unborn babies, literally, of like people who were of in the middle class, higher class, and it would just like grab the baby by the foot, smash him on a tree. That's how
So it's like
extreme it was.
hatred was like
Yeah, it
between
was.
the classes,
Yeah, it was
but
straight out genocide.
it went too far, kinda.
It did.
But you
And
know, yeah.
these people, when in the tribunals, they answered that the ones in the like the lower part, in like the lower ranks, they say that they were following orders. The one in the higher ones, they were saying they didn't know what they didn't happen. You're supposed to tell me my country felt through all of this, and you can't tell us why. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Going on with
maybe
that.
there wasn't some control, like,
No.
because, yeah, I don't know.
I mean that the progress of Cambodia's past one generation was huge. Yes, yeah, it is. It is, and it's very complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's also surprised me, because in Soviet Union, when the revolution happened, the Bolsheviks, no, the Soviet communists, they in opposite tried to move people to the cities. But
Really?
here in opposite,
Yeah,
Pol
yeah,
Pot wanted to move people out of the cities. From what I read, that because Southeast Asia like is famous and feeds on rice,
yeah.
so he wanted to grow a lot of rice,
I told
and
you
then
yesterday.
take this money and buy some machines,
Yeah.
and
That was his.
make industrialization.
Yep.
But
That didn't happen.
yeah, but in Soviet Union, opposite, they they made villages bigger. For example, some villages where my roots come from in the north,
Yeah.
they forced people to move from small villages to
I
one
forgot the
big
name.
villages.
Yeah, I forgot what you call the big villages.
Selo.
Silo. Yeah.
Yeah, selo. Yeah. So, for example, if some remote village, people would these like Lego houses from wood.
Yeah, Lego block houses.
Yeah, but from wood.
Really?
Yeah, no, in north of Russia,
Log house.
log house. Yeah, you would remove these logs and bring them to a new village and then build the house
It's fucking
again.
crazy. Really?
Yes,
That's crazy.
but usually in winter, because in winter it's easier to on the snow
Yeah,
to move it.
to just slide it on.
Slide it, yes, or like if it's village on some island. Yes, guys, how is the connection? So the communist and opposite, right? It was called in Soviet Union. Блять, I forgot now.
I mean, industrialization, no?
Yes, industrialization.
Urbanization.
Yeah, укрупнение поселений maybe, but there is another word like making bigger the places of living, like villages bigger, because it will be easier, to make like canteen. Communist dream in Soviet Union was like that. That's why we had small kitchens in communist buildings, because they dreamed that people would eat outside. But you eat outside in Asia a lot.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, no, in general, but in Russia it didn't work. Like people,
It's too cold to eat outside.
Yeah, people went to canteen outside. I mean, like not at home.
Oh yeah.
So people go to canteen in Soviet Union, in the factory, for example, in school. But still, when they get home, they cook themselves.
Of course.
They don't go to canteen. But communists dreamed like that you wouldn't need a kitchen in the house, in the building. So that's the difference. But I see here people in Asia eat more outside. I don't mean like outside, but not
like,
at home.
Yeah, of course, like in like restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, like and I think also delivery started in Asia first.
Yeah. I mean, street food is also very common here, so that's why they eat a lot outside. And sometimes we work like really hard hours, so it's just better that we eat out. If we could afford it, that is. Yeah, but you were saying that why we were moving people out to the countrysides.
Yeah, it's different to Soviet.
It was because of that.
That's the question. Maybe next question it's
were
related.
saying,
It's related.
Yeah,
difference between the
Asian.
As you said, you used Maoism here and Marxism-Leninism, which we had in Soviet Union and Warsaw Pact countries, Eastern Germany, Kyril, but
GDR, Germany, the German Democratic Republic. So.
Bunga, why you distract me? I thought it's like some Dollarus scam, but it's like you use your capitalist time advertisement selling t-shirts with how is the connection. Good capitalist idea, by the way, Bunga. Okay, what's the difference between, do you feel, Maoism, Marxism, Leninism?
It's the fact that, I mean, I don't really...
Yes.
So, it's like...
From what you know, because I also didn't learn Marxism-Leninism in school or university like my parents or grandparents, but just what do you feel like here different in communism?
I mean, so Asian, there's no really strict distinction between Asian communism and like Western communism or Eastern communism in the Soviet Union. The only distinction is either you're a Marxist or are you an extreme Leninist Marxist. And the thing that you can use for example is us in the 80s, in the 70s, in the late 70s, and that of Vietnam, when there was a conflict between these two communist countries. All of a sudden, why would theoretically two communist countries fight each other, right?
Which ones you mean now?
Vietnam and Cambodia back in the late 70s. And that's because Cambodia was a Maoist country while Vietnam was a Marxist-Leninist. And you would have to think that... Sorry, 1 minute.
Yeah, Maoist, guys, for those characters who don't know, it's Mao Zedong in China.
Yeah, the big guy with the and Mao was more like he was a pragmatist too. By the way, he was very pragmatic, I would say, and like it was more he diluted communism and socialism and the teachings of Lenin and whatever, and he made it his own kind of version. So East Germany was, but sorry to get to your question later, but yeah, so Cambodia was more like when you think of it, Pol Pot exercised the same almost cultural revolution here in Cambodia, which has just resulted in plain out genocide because of the small population, like Mao Zedong did in China.
Don't you think that they wanted to kind of privatize this Marxism-Leninism and to make their own, like that? Oh, it's our teachings. Like in North Korea, they have this chuche.
Chuche.
Yeah, you know, it's like it's like
teaching
communism, or in China, communism with Chinese characteristics.
Yeah.
Like because we don't use like some West.
It's the same.
Some German Marx,
Yeah.
but just like it's Mao, I am great. Like it's my teaching.
I know.
That's maybe the reason.
That's the same thing. It happened
One
here.
of the reasons.
Yeah. It's like you can say it's like Pol Potism.
By the way, yeah, you know why I shouldn't say it's only like in Asia they did it, because Lenin also did it. He called it Marxism-Leninism.
Yeah,
not only Marxism, like Lenin, I am the teacher.
Yeah, it's like
new teacher. Okay, Marxism, like God, communist God, but I'm like Jesus, communist Jesus.
But Lenin is as close as you can get to like a pure communist, I would say, if you could say that.
Yeah, you know what, I have, yeah, Lenin maybe effed up a little bit, but I think if I would born those times, maybe I would be a communist, because you know, no, Russian Empire also, if you're a peasant, you can't go anywhere.
Serfdom.
For example, now I don't want, no, I'm not a communist at all, but those times I understand why people wanted to become communist, you know, and Lenin wasn't like that hardcore. As I understand, he usually, like, okay, he killed the emperor's family because they were competitors.
Yeah, but that was that's necessary. I'm sorry.
For him, yeah, like so they won't take power
for
again.
Russia, no?
But then Stalin started like this red terror.
Yeah.
You know, classes removed. But Lenin was more soft in it. So
yeah, I mean, like I heard in the late 50s when like Stalin died, and Khrushchev had like exposed what Stalin did, like
Stalinization they started.
And when people heard what Stalin did, they died of a heart attack, like because they couldn't believe Stalin did all these things.
Yeah, people cried like when he died, but then.
But at least Stalin had the decency to do that.
But
Pol Pot didn't. He killed you and gave you a kiss goodnight, like literally. He does not care about what society thinks. That's because he evacuated the cities. He killed. And I don't know, people who talked with Pol Pot said he was very charming or something.
Yeah, he looks like a nice like guy, Winnie the Pooh, you know, Winnie the Pooh.
But the dude's a fucking murderer. Like, look, so some historian had mentioned that Joseph Broz Tito, the leader of Yugoslavia, visited Pol Pot, and Pol Pot was a fanboy of Tito, and he did like so much ceremony, but Tito said like this dude is crazy in the head. Like Tito said that. Imagine.
Yeah, even communist countries later on turned on Pol Pot, like Soviet Union.
I mean, who wouldn't?
At first, like,
Sure,
let's check, like, Lila sent some money again. Lila, you see, Lila, you're recognized as the loyal subscriber of me, the supreme leader. What best described communism? You too will answer, here. Thank you very much. What best describes communism? Like, okay, I'll start. Like, it's difficult question, you know, because I didn't really live under communism. So for me, it's more like just it's both good and bad, I would say, because I believe in Soviet Union, like science was respected more than now. Like for example,
There was a push
like
for
you
it.
see, Soviets flew to space, but now in Russia we still use the Soviet rockets.
Yeah,
They
I've
were
heard.
so good and cheap that they still use them, and we even drove Americans into space when the shuttle program stopped.
Yeah,
So they created the SpaceX for 10 years. We brought them there, still on Soviet spacecraft rockets. But now they made it and they are ahead again. So you know, they lost all the time. And now in Russia they spend money for like I don't know what. But yeah, we are losing this. So and. Free apartments, it's pros and cons, because like yeah, it would be simple apartment maybe you would get, and you would need to work in one place, you can't change this work usually, and but still it's some apartment to live, you know,
Yeah,
because
it's
now
something.
it's like crazy interest in banks, like
Loans.
it's like very crazy to buy.
Mortgages
For
fall, yeah.
30 years you will pay, and you will pay for 3 apartments and you will get one. That's crazy.
How is that
percent.
logical? You pay for 3, but you
Well,
get for 1.
they think
So they could fuck you in the
no,
ass.
because if
I'm
you
sorry.
look, if you have another option to pay rent, and you will never own this apartment. You know, if you pay rent for some apartment, you just pay it and throw money out. Like, but if you buy in mortgage some apartment, you pay kind of the same money as you pay for the rent.
Really?
But in the end, you will get that apartment, but it will take like 30 years.
My God, man. Okay. I
Yeah, and also because of inflation, you know, it's actually maybe
You pay more.
no, you will pay maybe less in dollars, for example.
I see.
Because in
But if
Russia
you-
inflation never stops, you know.
But if
like,
you pay in ruble, that means.
yeah, in rubles it's better now,
I see. I see.
because in dollars before 2014, like when Russia annexed Crimea, dollar was stable, like 30 rubles for 10 years maybe. But those people who bought apartments in dollars, they now would need to pay 2 times more if they get salary in rubles, because ruble dropped 2 times in power.
I see. I see.
So, you know, so they were like, oh, what, Putin help us, but Putin said, well, it was your decision, what can I do? Yes, Emperor Sergius, yes. Yeah, also Carol wrote something like
We have to read. Actually, we have to pay more attention to audience.
Lenin
actually.
soft. Carol, Lenin was softer than
That's what we did,
Stalin, that's what I mean. And
Something successfully did.
and the emperors in Russia, they weren't also the flowers, you know, like they also
They were
killed
dicks.
protesters and
No,
like,
I know.
shot.
Yesterday you were mentioning something about vodka and drinking culture. I was gonna say that I learned that.
On the field people died, man.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that like the Tsars, they would make vodka cheap so that the serfs would just drink so much and then
No, it was like, it's called Blood Sunday in
Blood
history.
Sunday.
So it was, I forgot exactly, but it was maybe 1905, something like that. So it was some event, and the emperor said, okay, free vodka, free stuff for everyone.
Really?
And there was so many people, you know,
They just became
squashed each other. So like hundreds died. I don't know how.
stampede.
Yeah, stamping on each other, like, because
God,
like yeah, but also he shot like protesters and stuff like that. So they weren't like
No.
very nice people, these
No.
emperors, in my opinion.
Royalty. I always
Yeah,
loved them.
yeah, Stephen K. Wow, I'm only proud that the JDR, German Democratic Party, introduced coffee plantation successfully to Vietnam. Stefan, yeah, you said about it. I remember when I was in Vietnam.
Yeah, no.
Bloody Sunday, 1905. Wow, you see, I was right. 1905. Bloody
Somebody
Sunday.
is really paying attention to a history
No,
class.
Daddy AI. Yeah, me.
Yeah.
Like, it's not history class. It's Wikipedia tonight.
Fair enough.
Сейчас, you wanted to Carol's thoughts. East Germany was probably the most successful communist country. Some Germans still look back with nostalgia about the DDR. Yeah.
I'm not sure about that, man. I'm not sure about that. I mean,
what do you think the best would be better than East Germany?
I have a crazy story, and it's like very out of hand because we're all the way here in Cambodia, but I was an intern, and I was an intern at a restaurant actually for some time, and a hotel. It's a restaurant hotel, so I had to do F&B and everything. And my boss was German, but he's from East Germany, the eastern part of Germany.
Yeah.
And he told me a crazy story. I asked him, like, over a beer, like, what happened, like, where were you on the day of, like, the collapse when the wall went down and everything? And he was like, he was working. The boss said he was gonna go to the bathroom, but the boss took, like, the cashier money, like the money from the cashier. It just disappeared, and he never saw the duty ever again. So
yeah, well, Carol also told me those stories, and like people ran to Western Berlin, for example, or Western Germany. Yes, but Carol says a bit different things, that East Germany was the best out of all communist countries. That's what he meant.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Yes, that's true.
Because I don't think anything
but
would
still,
be better.
like, I wouldn't be in a country that you have to wait 10, 20 years for a car.
So in Soviet Union, it's like that.
East Germany is the same. So I'm saying, like, okay, at least East Germany is, like, at least the most humane communist country.
Yeah, guys, those like Carol and Stefan, you're from Germany, because in Soviet Union you would need to wait like for 10 years for the car. But there were some tricks. I will tell how my grandparents got car faster, and they weren't from the party elite.
Could I?
Yeah. So how long would you wait for the car in Eastern Germany, guys? Like, if you know. Carol, well, when I was living in Eastern Germany in 1990-1991, I was supposed to rent a one-room apartment in a commie block for $1,200 per month and this person paid $18. Because they charge you the capitalist price? Oh my god. And you see, 18 euros per month. Well, those times it was like dollars maybe he means, but wow. Wow, it's crazy, wow. That much difference.
Actually.
You see, but in Communist Bible it says, you know, Communist Bible, paragraph 3, that it's not a sin to suck money out of the capitalist. So you see, Carol, you are from capitalist part of Germany.
You got a point there.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of fair, you know. It's not sacrilegious to overcharge a capitalist pig. Because you have money anyway, so what difference does it make?
Capitalists have too much money, they have to share.
Yeah, I mean, it's
but
not yours, it's ours.
Блять, you have?
Mine's out of gas, let's see. Нахуй. Shit.
Guys, where is our gas?
Fucking... This is what communism does to you, man.
You know what? Let's maybe ask you some.
Please, I think it's great to see.
Scott Nesbitt, I'll check him, but I think they go too much into the politics, these guys. You know, I'm afraid, to be honest, to go too much into politics now.
What's wrong with
They live abroad. This Russian dude, I mean, they are forever abroad, like some of them. No, you know, some YouTubers who criticize
the Russia,
Putin, but they live abroad, like they have like some other citizenship or something. They never go back.
And they trash talk about Putin. I know.
Yeah.
Pussies. No, let's see. On.
Oh, wow, the Gopnik way.
Tripalotsky.
Oh, you don't know this.
We should sit like a Gopnik.
No, I can't sit like that anymore because
you old now,
no,
man.
My legs are bad. Okay, let's.
Да, блядь. Oh shit. Lamau. Who's Lamau? Are you a communist? Sanction Iva talk crap about Putin all
Well,
the time.
Bonga, I don't know if he's going back to Russia, but yeah, some people also more brave than others.
Brave is a wise word.
Oh man, so like look, after Pol Pot government fall, you started to have more Soviet influence and like Chinese influence, yeah, Maoism.
No. That's the thing. Because Pol Pot was a big fanboy of Mao.
But
So-
he ruled himself, not even like
Yeah, but he was getting really good support from China, like weaponry and food and medicine, in exchange for Cambodian rice and everything. Because you have to look at the greater scope of history. This was when Cambodia entered the later stage of the Second Indochina War, the War of American Aggression in Vietnam, and the Vietnam War in America is what it's known. Cambodia only entered it in the 1970s, when American troops and advisors were already pulling out. But also in this timeline, in communist, in the communist world, China and the Soviet Union was experiencing the Sino-Soviet split. So the Soviet and the Chinese were going their different ways, right? So Cambodia and Vietnam, the battlefield of the Cold War at that moment, had to make their own decision. So at this, in the early stage of this Cambodian Civil War, and the part is late stage of the Vietnam War, the Cambodian and the Vietnamese communists were working with each other, but then when each respective country had their own communist victories and takeovers, and this was not far different. Saigon, South Vietnam, Arvin fell in April
75.
Yeah, but April
30.
April 30. We fell in April 17. My capital fell in April 17. So we fell like a couple of days earlier than you guys did. And yeah, when they took over power, both communist countries had to make decisions. Cambodia chose China's Maoism, and the newly established communist Vietnam chose the Soviet-style communism. So that's the split.
Yes, but after Red
The
Rush fall,
Yep,
the Soviets kind
had
of
influence,
came
but the Chinese
because
communism-
Vietnamese were to the Soviets and Vietnamese came to Cambodia. That's why I
they
think,
brought
like,
that, and that's when the Sino-Vietnamese War happened, because China saw Cambodia being invaded and saw that one of their allied or puppet state back then was being attacked. So Vietnam.
in China, as I remember, invaded Vietnam.
Yes, that's because
Yeah,
Cambodia.
you see, by the way, you said Cold War times, but the Cold War against like communism and capitalism West, but communists also had their own Cold War kind of
That's what I'm
stuff like that.
saying. Yeah. For every one win, it must be one loser. What does that mean? Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and like I wanted to ask you, like when the Soviets came, influence came, like for example, yesterday we mentioned that Russian market. Like, what do you think? Because that Soviet influence was even longer than Pol Pot rule.
It existed before that, yeah.
No, I mean, look, Pol Pot was like for around 4 years, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Almost.
So when did it fall?
In 79.
79.
Yeah.
So you had like for 11 years, 12 years, this kind of Soviet influence. So I wanted maybe if you know what was what's left of Soviet influence, if you know it.
I mean,
like for example, this education.
Educated officials, some officials in like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and a lot like
Studied in Russia,
yeah,
Soviet
studied in
Union.
the Soviet Union and Ukraine, in the like by the Caspian. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of Soviet influence, even before Pol Pot took power. Like you would have to see that Soviet legacy was left in like the Soviet Cambodian Friendship Hospital. That was one of the largest hospitals in
That's,
Phnom Penh, yeah, in the capital city, and Soviet aid came before like the Pol Pot joined the kingdom period, which is weird because like a communist country was supporting a neutralist kingdom, and
yeah, but they wanted to get some
of
influence,
course,
and
of
maybe
course.
one day.
It's part of the greater geopolitical
Yeah.
influences, and yeah, I mean Soviet influence was left in like that part where there's you know support in hospital. There's limited, it's not as much as in Vietnam, I would say, but yeah, there is, but in mostly in education and in that field.
But do you have here in Cambodia some older people, for example, who still would speak some Russian?
No, very
Yeah.
rare. Yeah,
I
very.
think in Russian market I've met some older couple, but they knew just few words, you know.
Yeah.
In Vietnam, for example, much more older people, they forgot Russian already, but they taught in school, so they know some words, few words.
Yeah.
It's like we learn English in school in
Of course,
Russia,
like a
but
mandatory
we
class.
just know, yeah, like bad words like bitch, shit, like,
Yeah,
or at least
excuses.
we can count until 10. So in Vietnam it was like that.
Yeah, I only watch section.
Yeah, it's about other live
Yeah.
streamers. You'll get to know them
Of course,
later.
later. But yeah,
But you said about aid. Like, what aid do you think it was? Like some
oh,
food or like?
in medical supplies as well, and like it as an advisor, because yeah, I would have to say that after the genocide, the human resource in Cambodia was very limited. So Soviet aid came in as like advisors in different technical skills, because I think the statistic was that for every department, every field, every technical field, the survivor in Cambodia was around 400 to 300 people who were educated in any field, professors or those with like PhDs, like technical people. So Soviet aid came as in like people who like doctors, nurses, technical advisors in industry, in textile, and even like farming even. So we had those people and military advisors and like basically military aid as well. But I would say if to personal, I would say like my grand aunt and everyone who lived and my relatives who lived in the government zone back then mentioned fondly of like Soviet soap, the ones like the white Soviet soaps where you can just like even wash your clothes with
It's called хозяйственная.
yeah.
It's not even like white, kind of gray,
Yeah,
white, like this, more like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it smells not like capitalist soap, like not like
Capitalist.
flowers. It smells,
Fragrance,
but it
nothing.
smells not really good. But
It works.
it worked. Yeah, it
Yeah.
works and it's cheap.
They
It was
remind
like
me of
more
that.
like brown color like this.
Yeah, and they remind me of that, like soap Soviet, like yeah.
Wow.
So,
So
like,
it's like meaning of quality. I don't know.
yeah. But they remind me like, in the black market, like oh maybe sometimes you can get that the government gives it to you, but you can get that in the black market if you
They
like,
would resell some like
yeah, of course.
who had access to the
Amount,
aid.
yeah.
But for example, do you know this flea market stuff? Do you have it by the way? Wow.
Yeah, we do have flea markets.
Wow, flea market, good idea to
But not-
film video.
I mean, yeah,
But-
here in Siem Reap too.
Yeah, you have it here.
I think so, yeah.
Wow, I'll
You have
check
to
it.
find a place.
But do you know if it's possible, for example, in Cambodia to find some Soviet, I don't know, medals or like
no, very rare.
Very rare.
Yeah, but you can get money and coin from that era, like in Cambodia, but not anything that's Soviet relics, because like the Soviet Cambodian connection is very through like the
Too far,
middleman.
like just
Yeah,
too far.
and it's also through the middleman Vietnam. So I mean, it's not that much. some Cambodian aid, some Soviet aid that was supposed to come to Cambodia was funneled to Vietnam instead. So yeah, that's controversial itself.
Wow, flea market, good
Treasure
idea.
Soviet treasure state. Yeah, yeah. That's it. Yeah, but yeah, a good communist is a dead communist. I'm gonna have to kill you after this stream.
You told me yesterday to scare stuff like about ghosts, like eating brain of monkey alive,
Yeah.
like it's crazy.
That's what I'm gonna do to you.
Well, guys, call 911. It won't work in
It won't work,
Cambodia.
no,
911,
no.
yeah, they won't come.
Talking bad about other YouTubers, not a debate. Sorry, you people feel that way. Yeah. That's fair.
You know what to say? Like, for example, even though like China had used this Maoist communism, you had it here
Ideology.
for like 4 years, like this, but still. But when I was in China, even though it's different from Soviet, like Marxism-Leninism, you know, ideas, but I felt, for example, in architecture, just way of life, it's more similar to Soviet than, for example, Vietnam, which was closer to Soviet.
Really?
Well, in China you would have these commie blocks everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Then you have this, they still have it, you know, not police, but helpers of police with this kind of reds.
Oh, like civil protection.
Yeah. So we call them
have that.
дружинники. You still have it?
We have it, but they've been royalized,
like royal helpers.
Yeah,
like
for now. But they used to be called
Yeah, we call them дружинники. Дружинник comes from the word like friend, something like friendly help. But in China they still drive in. It's usually grandparents, like old people who don't have jobs. They give them some jobs, so they sit all day in the bus and look for the order. Yeah. In Vietnam they still have it. Like this, they just old grandpas sitting doing nothing. That's why one of the reasons, by the way, in communism, usually, at least in Soviet Union, was low, how do you call it, like when no work. Like,
unemployment.
Unemployment low, very low, because, for example, they would just give you some stupid job to do, which doesn't do
contribute
anything
much, but you still do something, right?
Yeah. And they would pay you some small money, but it doesn't profit to anything.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but we rarely have that, and that's why you have to understand, like in Cambodia usually, like the older generation, they don't have to worry much, except if they don't have like children or anything to look after them. But like if they reach the age of like not being in the workforce and the employment, we go home to their countryside, tend to their farm, to their cows and whatnot, and they just do that.
But do you have pensions here in Cambodia?
Yes, we do, for government workers only, I would say.
Only?
Yeah.
Wow.
The private sector, they take care of their own people.
Wow, in Russia everyone has, even if I won't work all my life, they would still give me like $100 or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Nah, here sometimes it gets bad if it's in the private sector.
But they would give me more later, not like Putin increased the pension rate age. He said we will never do it, but then he increased it.
Asshole.
And but if you didn't work all your life, you would get, not like now for men at 65 years old, you would get pension. But I think if I wouldn't work minimum it's 15 years, I think, or something.
15 years.
You have to work to get it at 65. Maybe not 15, I forgot, but something like that.
Yeah.
But if I would never work all my life, I would get it maybe at like 75, I don't know.
Jesus.
No, I'm not sure. But 65 is official if you work, like we have such book for working, but not only government jobs, every job.
For us, it's different because like the private sector has their own thing, and the government has their own thing. And I think the government is more understanding. I think the retirement age is like 60 or something, and then I think you get like mud or something like 60,000 real or something, or somewhere around like they get pretty decent.
In dollars, how much is it? 60.
It's pretty like
$12.
no, like 100 something, $128 or something.
Oh.
Somewhere around 100 something. Yeah, we do have like a very organized because it became a huge problem. Like older people, they didn't have any children. Most of their children died in the wartime. We had a large population of old people who couldn't take care of themselves. So like we really had to take care of our elders, and people now really that became like a national issue, you know. So we had to take care of that actually.
Yeah, I think also I noticed in Asia it's more common for children to support their parents.
Yeah, that's why we don't
in
see
Russia
that much.
it's less.
Yeah.
I would say, like
Yeah.
we just visit sometimes parents, like don't help them that much.
For us it's like we owe our life to them. Like that's the ideology.
Yeah, but in case of pensions, you see, yesterday I mentioned that, like in Russia, even though we are not communist anymore, but we kept more socialist communist things than even some existing communist countries like China. Yeah,
like the services that like the humane services that you should have keep. Like one thing that I really admire Russia doing is like keeping universities free, because at least like you have, okay, Russia, you have some of your flaws, but like keeping universities free, at least.
No, it's for 1/3 of students, just 30-something%. If you are smart enough, you might
but that's fair,
do
no?
exam. Yeah, even I studied for free, but then I quit university because I was lazy to study. I even felt bad to take someone's place who could study instead of me for free.
Studying is for losers anyways, man.
Yeah, now making money, like, yo man, let's make big money, big business. You know,
I mean, fair.
like Russian gopniks, like, yeah. In Russia, more.
Aduk Prohibitum tipped $10. Emperor Sergius, Internet fixed many in Gulag now. Fear and Greed 60.
It's banned the Minister of Gulag.
35 years.
Minister of Gulag, thank you very much, but Fear and Greed 60, wow, it got lower a little bit. It was 69, but then you said it was 2 weeks ago, so then you said 64, and now 60 Fear and Greed, capitalism, Fear and Greed. But I didn't, the internet fixed many. Wow, band, please send me the report. I need to figure out, because it's something new, I need to figure out it. You know, send me the report, please, on the table. But thank you for your, in Gulag you take out the golden teeth, so you share with me. Wow, it's actually bad to joke like that. People struggled there, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah,
but it's nice to make jokes of something that dark to lighten up the mood, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, Vietnam, I think they're just doing their own thing.
Vietnam, like that's what I forgot to mention. Vietnam still communist, but
I mean,
Russia is more.
Anonymous tipped $4.20. I enjoy listening to your conversation.
Where are the cameras? Oh yeah. Anonymous, I know you're listening from there. Yes, I saw this. Anonymous, you are watching us not from the live stream, but you are watching us from here.
That's scary.
Yeah, this camera with light. Anonymous, I know you are watching us from this camera. You know.
Oh, he's doing that?
Yes.
Are you for real?
Yes. So he will see if you want to kill me, as you said, he will see.
But like...
It's
No,
hackers.
because the lights only activate when someone is in the camera.
Well, Anonymous, he knows like how to connect. Well,
I really need to really need to change the password for those cameras. How did you do that?
Well, you know, Western hackers and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like guys, Vietnam still communist, but I feel like except that like ideology, that they have flags everywhere, the party, one party, like.
But they're more capitalist than anyone.
Yeah, they're more capitalist than Russia, I think.
Yeah, no, like it's because of their culture of like wealth, money, and everything. That's hard to get out
they
of.
love these golden chains, I noticed.
Yeah.
You know, but
Lorianne tipped $10.
it's French name.
Hello, Lorraine.
Yeah, just sound, you know, volume goes down. I need to fix it. When it's playing, they can't hear us well.
No.
They can hear, but very bad.
Very little.
Larian Brosnovsky. Wow, Larian, you see you have French name like in Polish. Thank you very much, Larian. So now it's $34. So I'll survive tomorrow day.
Yes, sir.
Now $16 hotel if nothing changes. Food, because I sometimes eat some capitalist expensive food ordering, you know. Chicken drumstick costs like $1.20 here, something like that.
Yeah.
To order. Wow, it's crazy. Cambodia expensive, man.
It's stupid expensive, man.
But yeah, Larian, thank you very much. And maybe $1 from your donation I leave for the cat food or dog food, because I know you love it. Thank you, Larian. Massachusetts, best state. You know, when we'll make the communist revolution in the world, we let Massachusetts to stay capitalist.
For now.
Yeah.
$1 chicken. Yes. Where'd you get that $1 chicken?
You know, Grab order, delivery, drumstick. You know,
I know. Yeah. I just think there's like like a motorbike that has like a stall, and they sell really good chicken.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just now a bit in a crash, but it's you know, physical. I'm tired.
Yeah.
So
you can't eat that much.
I eat a lot still. You see, but I'm late. I don't have power to walk now, so I ordered.
No need to take over.
Yeah, I think in Vietnam they also don't have pensions, for example, or maybe also for government people only, something like that.
Vietnam is doing something. But it's an interesting country, though. Still, no, like it's.
Vietnam is interesting. Like for live streaming, you know, always every second something happening. They kill chickens on the street.
It's like you like it because you don't understand it, you know. Like that's my case. I like Vietnam because I don't understand it.
Yeah, man. I also, you know, it's kind of even. I like it first days, weeks, but then I just get tired of constant honking and driving. But it's interesting even to walk on the streets.
Like something's always
I don't
happening.
Anonymous tipped $4.20.
I'm really paranoid now, actually. Please don't search my search history.
Yeah, you see, guys, Anonymous, it's good you made him paranoid, because he made me paranoid about killing me after the live stream. So now you make him Anonymous. Actually, first time I'm telling you thank you.
I'll kill him anyways.
Now well, now you make me really paranoid. Guys, you see, Pol Pot still like alive. Loyal, thank you again. Wow, what's the benefits of communism? Wow, it's actually a good question, you know, because you kind of, as I understand, dislike communism a lot, but still it would be interesting. What's good you can say about communism, and in Cambodia maybe if it did some good?
It's not your girlfriend, it's
Lorianne tipped $4.20 for the cats and dogs and food for you.
Wow, the capitalist wave started. Wow, Lorianne, thank you very much. Yes, but maybe I'll go again to cat cafe here and feed, but cats are scared. In cat cafe, it's privileged cats, so I want to feed some stray cats, but they're afraid of me. But I'll try. I'll do it, Larian. Yes.
Feed the
Thank you very
cat, but
much.
don't feed the Cambodian. We're just kidding. It's a
Right,
joke.
I didn't understand anyway. But what did you say before? Something like about
Oh god.
share something.
What did I talk about? Crap, I'm sorry. What are we talking about?
Yeah, anyway. You see capitalist distraction. They
Yeah,
want to distract us from world communist revolution. You said that I asked you, oh, Cairo, danke schön, maybe you can buy big tasty, keep your physique. Cairo, I think no McDonald's in Cambodia.
No, we don't.
They have many
KFC.
capitalist brands actually, KFC, Burger King, pizza, something, even Starbucks.
Yeah.
Freaking expensive, like
And Pizza Hut as well.
$3.50 for some coffee.
Yeah, but that's you could have just bought like a 75 cents coffee because that exists.
Yeah.
But we do have like $3 Starbucks and everything.
Well, I think when we had Starbucks in Russia before sanctions, it wouldn't cost that much.
Fair.
Wow, Carol, thank you. Maybe I'll buy some big tasty in other country. But yeah, like or Whopper or something like Big Tasty. Yeah, but Big Tasty is the best. Carol, danke schön. Yeah, so you can't say anything good about communism.
No, if it's not, I mean, the only thing I can say is that it's not your girlfriend, it's our girlfriend.
Yeah, that's what you said, but I forgot.
Yeah,
What
but no. It's not your girlfriend, it's our
like
girlfriend.
prostitute.
No, because
do you know that in Soviet
we share,
Union?
You know what I'm saying, like we
in
share.
Soviet Union, I think there was like some plan by some communist ideologist. I don't remember who, maybe not that important one, but there was some idea to create like official prostitutes to satisfy the workers, like working class.
I think that's the only good thing about communism. then I don't have nothing else to say good about communism. Except for like, because the Cambodian experience with communism is pretty terrible. We don't have that shared experience with communism. It's like collectivism and everything. It's just straight out murder and everything. But yeah, I don't have anything good to say about communism. Yeah, a good commie is a dead commie, you know.
How in America they said like better dead than red.
Yeah, better dead than red. Like better dead than being a communist, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, I can't say maybe because I'm from Russia. Maybe we still had like some crazy stuff going on, but and still having some crazy stuff. But my family, like, maybe if some of my family would be in Gulag or something, you know, maybe I would hate communism like crazy.
I see.
But yeah, my old relatives, like great parents and stuff like that, they only struggled from communism like when it was so-called продразверстка, kind of like collectivization.
Yeah, collectivization.
You know, by the way, you had it also, like when they come to your village, take your rice, cows. Yeah, I had this in question. For example, look, in Soviet Union, even in the late Soviet Union, we had this колхозы. Колхозы, it's like collective farm.
I see.
So you would work in this collective farm, you wouldn't allow to have your own
possession.
Yeah, like cow. No, I think they let you have some one cow later on, something like that, limited.
Okay.
But later.
I see.
For example, you work in this collective farm and, you know, here you cut rice, or you collect rice, farm rice, but in Russia rice doesn't grow. Yeah. For example, you cut hay,
the hay
for cows to eat.
Yeah.
So you would cut it, and in the late Soviet Union, like maybe 80s, early 80s, you would need to give, as I was told, like up to 80-90% of hay to the government, and they would leave you 10% for your cow, for example.
What the hell is that?
Yeah,
No.
but do you know something like that in Cambodia? Did you have it?
No, except
example?
for the K5 thing, the one that I told you about the labor. There's nothing where like collectivism, like I was getting there earlier. Like Cambodia did not experience like the type of communism even during like the 80s where it's like the socialist Kampuchea. We didn't experience much like
maybe you
collectivism.
were too busy with all this stuff
Yeah, we were
rebuilding. And
busy
also what
fighting
I
a war
thought
at
that
the
you had communism arrive later than like in Europe,
yeah.
because Europe, Asia, no, Soviet Union like mostly in Asia, but I consider it different though, because like Europe, like you see
Eastern
Soviet
Bloc.
Union, Bolsheviks took power in 1917, so it was a mess first years, like,
Yeah.
but Soviet Union established in 1922. In Yugoslavia, after the World War II, like
Yeah.
Tito 45 something, like
Yeah, he
he
took
took.
over.
So, but you got it.
75.
You had 75, but before there were some communists, but still it was like wars, no, it's fighting with each other, everyone.
Well,
like Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam,
yeah.
he established his like communist party,
Party.
something like in
We did.
1950 something.
I know, we
but
did.
they didn't have power.
Yeah,
They
like
just
the
fighting.
party, like the party itself.
Yeah, party, but they didn't rule
Yeah,
yet
they didn't
the
rule the country.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We
So
did have
maybe
that.
that's why you started later, and you still had to.
I mean, they existed, but they only took power in 75, and they existed in the 50s. They only took power in 75, and like I said earlier, they did not exact communism as what communism is, because you have to understand, like, the communist fall of Cambodia happened because half of the guerrilla forces that was fighting the government believed that they were gonna liberate the country from Republican rule and give it back to the monarchy, the king. So these people were literally tricked into this, and so they didn't understand what communism is. They didn't. You're like, imagine one day you wake up as a farmer, somebody comes to you and say, "Hey, you want to try out and fight this thing, this whole war?" Because they were referring, like, the ones who were tricked. They were fighting something called the maquis, coming from the French word resistance. And that
like
then,
for everything good against everything bad.
yes, but that's what they thought. But they were tricked, like in the and of course, so they won. These people didn't know what communism was. They didn't know what Pol Pot was doing. Nobody knew who Pol Pot was. The whole Civil War, we did not have public enemy. Yeah, he just came out of nowhere and said, "Hey, let's try out Maoism and see how that goes."
Yeah, it's like for everything good against everything bad. What I want to say is that actually it's everywhere, maybe in the world, like that, especially before like information was like
very limited and diluted too.
Yeah, so like for example, when we had a civil war in Russia, people usually say like, "Oh, it's whites against reds." You know, like reds are communists,
whites are monarchists.
Like monarchists, yeah. But in reality, it's just the like
clueless
the
people.
highest classes.
Yeah.
And then, for example, civil war, they control some territories of Russian Empire, and they send like recruiters to some village, and they take peasants. Okay, you go with us to fight. To fight for what? I only know my farm, like my cow. Okay, you go with us. And
just
they
come
didn't,
over.
yeah, they didn't know what they fight for. Many people, no education. They maybe many couldn't read, write, you know.
Nothing. They don't.
And from both sides.
Yeah.
From communists, from, for example, one of my far relative, I don't even know who is he for me. You know, like some
distant relative,
brother of great grandfather, something like that. He was fighting. He died he was fighting for the Reds. He was mobilized, kind of. You know, so communists controlled this territory, and they just, okay, you
take
go
these people and
fight with us, or we shoot you now.
yeah,
for
that's
example.
the thing.
And the highest, how to say, no, the former like royalty stuff, like generals
Like the
of Russian
high-ranking
Empire, yeah,
people.
high-ranking people, and smart communists like Lenin, or you
Like
know, or
what do you call it? The Bolsheviks.
yeah, Bolsheviks. You know, many of them were, by the way, Jewish.
Yeah.
But Jewish are smart people, actually.
Yeah,
You
fair.
know, I'm not saying it against Jewish or something.
Yeah.
They are smart people, so they changed their last names
Yeah.
from like Jewish names,
To Russian.
Russian style names. So, for example,
Trotsky was like.
yeah, Trotsky. Trotsky I forgot, but the most famous ones are Lenin. Lenin wasn't
Lenin's
Jewish,
Jewish?
no. But Lenin is not
My
the
heart.
real last name. Do you know real last name?
No.
Ulyanov.
Ulyanov.
Yeah, Ulyanov. But he changed it to Lenin maybe because I don't know why. And Stalin also not the real.
He was Georgian, the dude.
Yeah, Stalin was Jugashvili.
Gay.
Georgian last name.
Jugashvili?
Yeah, Jugashvili.
Gay. Very gay.
No, I don't know, maybe sounds for you. My name
Jugashvili.
sounds like gay a little bit. Sometimes they can Sergey,
Wait.
so they confuse you on the street sometimes.
It kind of
Whoa.
sounds like you're a British royal, but like Sergey.
Sergey, sometimes
Yeah.
they joke like that. But in Spanish, Portuguese, it means like ser means like to be, like in English. So be gay, like when I'm there. But okay. Patrick, поздрав, push likes. Ronald, communism is a religion with Marx as God and Lenin as his only begotten son.
Amen.
Ronald, yes, that's what kind I was saying. You see, it's kind of no in Christianity, you see, or Islam, there is like the main God and
The
he
prophet.
sends prophets.
Yeah.
So Jesus was Lenin, but in communism, Marx is like God, communist God, and he had like his
Lenin.
prophets.
Yeah.
Prophets. Lenin was like in Russia, and
Yeah.
China, Mao.
But
Maybe
his
they're
own-
the biggest two.
Yeah.
And then his students,
of
Pol
Pol
Pot
Pot.
and others.
I mean, like the 12 disciples. You could say disciples. Like Jesus have 12 disciples.
Disciples.
Like
I
his
don't know.
students. Like 12
yeah,
students.
like 12, yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
one traitor was.
Stalin is the Judas. Stalin is Judas, basically.
He betrayed, you think?
I mean, yeah. I mean, look. Trotsky was the one who was supposed to come into power instead of Stalin.
They killed him in Mexico.
Yes, of course. They followed his ass to Mexico and killed him, because that is how much Stalin feared Trotsky getting into power. You know, because Lenin wanted Trotsky to come into power instead of Stalin, because he knew Stalin was a bitch. So.
Yeah, you see, guys, how much he knows.
Thank you. At least my father knows now that my education is good.
Band Lenin and Yoko One caused the Beatles to break up. Bummer. Beatles music band.
Yeah.
Wow, and what is Yoko?
Yoko was Lenin's wife. Yoko Uno, the wife of Lenin. Not Lenin, not Vladimir Lenin, John Lennon, the singer.
Okay. So they called him like Lenin for a joke, like Lennon, John Lennon,
because
Lenin.
Lenin is Lenin, and his Lenin is Lennon. I think.
Well, it's Western, how to say, culture. You have to. You know more about Western culture than me.
I'm more capitalist, you call me.
Yeah.
Welcome to America.
Man, did you have such thing as 5-year plan like we had in Soviet Union, for example?
We did, and I think we're doing something similar.
Still have it like this.
Yeah, but it's not anything communist, but like we still have like a 5-10 year plan and everything. But yeah, I mean the early communist state of Cambodia, the democratic Cambodia. They only had 4 years, so they couldn't exact the 5-year plan.
But after,
yeah, but after, even in the Soviet-style communist period, it was okay. Like, there was 5-year plans and everything. It happened. It worked. Like, the first goal was to revamp human resources. No, I think you have to use both of them. Like, light this up. Light the block. Give me a second.
guys, it's very important to smoke, so
Yeah.
John Lennon. Oh, John Knox crazy Sergei would have been okay during the time of Pol Pot because he is not that intelligent person. John Knox, I would take the power here, but I would need to work without glasses and to find Pol Pot because he would think I'm inert and remove me from power.
Pol Pot. There you go.
Oh wow. No, the update 7-Elevens, I already made a review. Now it's time to make 7-Eleven review in another country, so for me not interesting anymore. So what we talked about, like John Lennon, but something more serious.
Something. Oh, sorry. Communism.
Yeah,
Why would we keep forgetting? We need to smoke more. Could you remind us what we were talking about?
Лайла, buying you lighter, мой начальник. Wow, Lila, thank you very much. I see you care about my lungs. Oh, Lila, mommy, Lila. But you counter, like I eat fruits from you, so my lungs should be good for cigarettes. Lila, mommy, thank you.
Oh, we were talking about the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
The first of the rows of the 5-year plans that we had after the genocide was to.
Anonymous tipped $3.33 for a new lighter.
Well, Anonymous, thank you very much. Today, actually, Anonymous, I like you don't scare me too much. So, Anonymous, thank you very much. In opposite, I even feel safer when you watch us from that camera, Anonymous, because, you know, Zach, like you see, he is like Pol Pot and him waking up, he's playing
Give
nice.
me your money!
I spent also money already.
And support my communist movement.
Yeah, you see, Cambodians are very nice, but still some Pol Pot live inside them like a little bit.
Just
don't get them angry. Well, Anonymous, thank you. Yeah, I see just today more distractions, that's why. But it's good, capitalist distractions.
We love it.
Yes, so 5-year plan, like
revamp human resource, because most of the human resources was like gone. So people like students, people who could read, were going to schools and everything, and they got scholarships. Most of them are sent to like former Yugoslavia. My mother almost got a scholarship to Yugoslavia, and actually, and my great grandmother was educated into the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Oh, sorry, grandmother, and she went to Ukraine, I think, for education. And
you know, by the way, we didn't mention this topic that much about like Yugoslavia, for example, because Yugoslavia also weren't in the best relations with Soviet Union.
I know.
And like China, like, and
that's the
my
thing.
father served on Chinese border like in 80s, and he said like there was like some
skirmishes.
I don't know this word, skirmishes, but some
small,
not dangerous situation, but tensions, you know, tensions. Like we even have a joke.
Standoff.
Yeah, no standoff, maybe even not standoff, but yeah, Soviets built like some military bases across So, and we even have, still have this saying, Soviet saying, the last Chinese warning. Have you heard about
No.
it? So, because, you know, Soviet Union and China, we even had a real conflict for some island on
I
the
know.
Amur River.
You lost a T-55
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I don't tank.
Yeah, the
You see, I
T-55.
don't remember, but he remembers the name of tank.
Yeah.
But I was in Chinese museum in Beijing. They have this tank, Soviet tank. They took it
T-55.
from
The swamp.
ice, from river.
Yeah, because it wasn't damaged. It was in perfect
Yeah,
condition. It only
it
sank.
just sank. But in China, they have complete different story of this.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, like I translated. So they say like we had a victory. They call it Zimbabwe, I think, island, but we call it Damansky. But later on, Putin gave it to
Yeah, like why?
as a gift to China in 2000 something.
I see.
But yeah, but in reality, well, I don't know, but by the Russian Soviet side, we used some secret weapon, you know, rockets,
Yeah,
and we destroyed the Chinese there. But in China, I don't remember what was written there, but I remember it was completely different
They
story.
don't talk about that kind of stuff. Like
They talk, but in museums, this tank,
in their victory.
and they call it something like victory or something.
I mean, people like to talk about it when like they don't like to talk about losing. I mean, I don't see Germany like having like a museum where they could just say that they did all
well,
these
because
stuff, you
they
know?
changed the power, the different, not Nazis in power anymore.
yeah,
but
but-
if it's the same party rules,
That they
they
would
don't
say it,
want
that's
to
what-
say they will lose or something.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if the Nazis still exist till this day, that they would say that the Normandy day, like the Normandy landings, didn't happen.
Yeah.
But
So I'm not saying that Soviets also probably over exaggerated the win.
propaganda,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe Soviets lost more soldiers in this conflict than, but actually I think Soviets really want that. Maybe
course.
we lost more soldiers and stuff, but yeah, Chinese also sent just peasants, you know.
I know the conscripts.
No, conscripts it's an army, but they were kind of provoking because this island on this Amur River, you can see this island only in summer because after winter water
Detracts, yeah.
snow melts. So
increases,
this island only like I don't know few months or in winter you can see this
I
island.
see.
So in summer the Chinese just sent peasants to cut
The
grass, hay, and the Soviet border troops, border guards, yeah, they moved them. These just peasants. So
Yeah.
it was like these provocations for
I
many
see.
years.
So
But
it's the same current situation that we're having right now.
with Thailand,
Yeah.
kinda, similar, yeah. So it's not like a big conflict, but
Like
still,
a small standoff confrontation.
yeah, and someone died also.
That's what a skirmish is. Like, it's not
Skirmish.
full-scale war, but
Ah.
at least there were people killing, like, dead in it. Like, I probably want to get on topic, but yeah, that's what happened right now.
Yeah, I forgot why I was saying that, but anyway, yeah, let's move back to like Yugoslavia, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So, your mother or
My mother
was studied in Yugoslavia?
No, almost. She almost got a scholarship there, but she didn't because like she didn't have family. Her whole family was like in the Civil War, so she didn't have any family and didn't have any support. You know, it was only the government. But no, she didn't. But my grandmother on my father's side, they did went to like Ukraine and everything, like to study and like I heard stories and they sang Katusha. I know these like they went abroad. Like a lot of the older and the middle class and the working like government working class here in Cambodia had in limited numbers studied in the Soviet Union or former Soviet republics.
Yeah, you kind of reminded me of the question. Look, when you had the in 1980s, yes,
Yep.
could just simple Cambodian to go abroad without asking the government, like?
No, not really.
You
Even with like it's similar to in the Soviet Union. Even if you have to walk inside, like movement inside within your own country is even hard. Like you need to get permission.
Registration, we had it, we call it propiska. In Russia we still have it, by the way.
Like you have 2 passports, you know, like one for inside the country and one outside, like an international.
You don't have it.
Not anymore, but like before, back then, they did. Like, if you want to go somewhere, you have to ask your village chief to write you a letter. Like,
yeah, even inside the country.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, by the way, it's interesting that we still have it in Russia, just it's not enforced.
Really?
Yeah, for example, if I move to other region in Russia, if I stay there,
to live.
Yeah, if I stay there more than 90 days, I would need to register.
Yeah, but that's normal. No, I'm saying like to
I understand.
travel.
In Soviet Union, we also had it like.
Really?
No, like you said, travel,
okay.
even travel.
Oh, okay.
For example, maybe travel, like, yeah, look, to give you some example of it. Look, there is like Moscow, yeah, the capital of Soviet Union. So just simple guy from some another region, he couldn't, maybe he could come to Moscow for a few days, but there is even degenerative term, you know?
Really?
Like Moscow people, like they're like snobby people.
Yeah, snob, yeah.
So they would call those people who would come to Moscow in Soviet times limita. It comes from the word, actually English word, you would understand, limited people, kinda, you know? They would allowed to live in some like factory dorms, for example, you know, and yeah, I don't want to be too much sound like a snob, but these Moscow people kind of were like, you know, this, oh, we are Moscovites, yeah, and they didn't like this. But now it's more people from other parts. It's even hard to find someone from Moscow, like who would have grandparents born in Moscow, you know.
I see.
Like now it's changed. Even the language. Like on TV, they still speak like Moscow accent.
I see.
But you remember you said "skучно"?
Skучно, yeah.
Yeah, it's old Moscow saying.
I see.
Old Moscow pronunciation. In St. Petersburg, we say "skучно". But in Moscow now you hear all different accents. It's even if you meet some babushka, old babushka,
yeah,
she would speak like Moscow old
accent.
Yeah, they use more "a", like "a" instead of "o".
For us, we have that distinction, but not into class. But like it's because the capital has been erased out, right? People who were in the capital were either murdered or like they go back and they never say that they were from the capital. So we never had that problem. But what happened was like people are very cautious of each other from different provinces. So like I'm from the north. I'm from Siem Reap. We really, I mean, not anymore, not that much. But when my mother's generation, she would warn me against marrying a woman from the south, or like eastern south, because they would associate because of what their parents did. You know, like I'm gonna say that, oh, the people from there are usually like beggars and like we usually like to live in poverty and whatever, and they just like live their life from that particular region. So whenever like I go around and whenever the conversation reached to where are you from, it gets controversial. Like not controversial, but like it's not like that controversial anymore. But if to say if I'm from that period, yes.
Yeah, you see, maybe like in Soviet Union actually, because this migration of people always was happening, even though maybe before it was happening slower, but communists kinda, what's weird about communists in Soviet Union, that in one way they say, wow, friendship of people, nations, like and stuff like that, but in another way they prohibit you to move and meet these people
and migrate in the first place.
Yeah, they prohibit you to do it.
You said that you have like Armenian blood, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Only a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I've only seen like some Soviet films where like Armenians or people from like the Caucasus who have darker complexion, it's still looked down in by like wider.
Yeah,
There's Rusinic and, you know.
in Soviet Union, this even though you have all these mottos, how you call it, mottos,
motto.
no, slogans, you know,
Yeah,
slogans
motto.
like friendship of people.
That's what I'm saying.
But
Motto
in
and
Soviet
slogan.
Union, this racism also existed.
Yeah.
There was anti-Semitism against Jews, you know,
And
especially
blacks as well, no?
blacks. Actually, no, I think, because it was very little amount of blacks.
Like students.
So, yeah, some students, so people in opposite would look at them interested. Wow,
Yeah.
you're from African country, and like there was the smartest blacks who would come to study, you know, to Soviet Union. So they actually, I haven't heard anything back. We even have like some hero. I saw some video about him, documentary. You know, Chernobyl accident.
Yeah, I know Chernobyl.
So that guy was like black, but he stayed in Russia, student, and he participated in Chernobyl. No,
excavation.
yeah, he helped to remove this radiation and stuff like that. So I haven't even heard. But inside Soviet Union, there was like inside racism, you know.
I see.
So
racism.
yeah, slogans are good, like friendship of people, but still there was also.
I mean, like you can look at the anthem in of the Soviet Union, like wielded by friendship of peoples. Like that's like.
Союз, Союз нерушимый, республик свободных, навеки спасибо.
Like this song is so inspiring, like it tells and reflects a friendship of people, wielded by the strength of Lenin and everything. I studied like because I don't like communism doesn't mean I don't know communism. I know for a fact like you encourage internationalism.
Guys, how is the connection, Dev Daily?
Derailed. Yeah. Well, we kind of derailed a little bit. We went off topic. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, communism has its own deed and its own good deed and everything. But realistically, you can never have a truly communist society.
Yeah, no one achieved the communism in the end. It was communism is the final stage where everything is for free because everyone is doing some part of job for society.
But it's just that everyone is too greedy.
Yeah, the Khrushchev you mentioned, Nikita Khrushchev, he promised the communism in 1980. But it didn't work.
No.
He was even removed from power. The only guys, one of the only guys, Russian rulers who, like, without any blood or revolution, was just left the power, you know. They moved him and removed him, and that's all. Yeah. No, Khrushchev was removed from power, like in 19, I forgot. He was ruling around 10 years, but then the party removed him from power, and Brezhnev came into power. Yeah. Who was removed without his own death, for example.
Yeah, like bloodless succession.
Yeah, and because Brezhnev only left when he died.
Yeah.
Well, Gorbachev, but it was kind of half revolution.
Yeah.
No, not very bloody, but people died also.
I mean,
revolution. So it's one of the. Stalin died by his own, like. So Khrushchev was like. No, in that period of time, one of the few who just left power and didn't die before his death, or.
But wasn't he embarrassed because of the?
Yeah, it's like some. How it's called? Game of Thrones, communist Game of Thrones.
Yeah, something like this.
Communist game of like seat.
Have you seen the movie, The Death of Stalin? It's a funny movie.
I maybe, but forgot.
It's a comedy. It's like after Stalin died, and they like Khrushchev, Zhukov.
What country would make such film?
England did.
England.
And it's a stupid comedy movie, but yeah.
No, I maybe didn't watch, but I've heard.
You should see it.
But my favorite is Khrushchev Does America. It's maybe also British or Americans did. When he went to America, his trip, and he became like a superstar there.
Yeah,
But
I've seen that one.
there you go, connection. Good. Yeah, let me check some also questions.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, Yugoslavia, because in Yugoslavia the people were allowed to travel abroad.
I was very.
It's maybe the only communist country of those times.
Yeah, that were able to travel. I was like very surprised.
Yes, they
Why?
studied.
How?
Like I was told, they could go to Italy to study, to buy some stuff. Like
Isn't that progressive for a
no,
communist
no,
country?
yeah. Well, many people like still Tito in former Yugoslavia. Some hate, even some of my subscribers, but still many like
I mean,
Tito those
course.
times.
Compared to other like leaders that Serbia and the Yugoslav republics have after Tito, I think Tito is the best shot you got, my man. You can't negotiate that thing.
Yeah, yeah. But you see, he didn't prepare
The death
after his death.
succession.
Yeah,
Yeah.
success.
All right, there.
Yes. Yeah, maybe you can read if something like you see.
By Amando Lubchenko, written by. Oh yeah, he was talking about the movie. The Death of Stalin is the 2017 political
so early. Wait, so not long ago?
Yeah, no, it's not long ago. It's like 2017. It's a controversial movie.
Well, maybe I'll watch. Man, you know what? You also said. Well, we talked about like this kind of racism in Soviet Union, but still on the government level it was like friendship of nations, you know. Or for example, but on the people's level, if you would go to army, Soviet army, there were still, we would call it землячество from the word land. For example, land or
to lend.
land or, блять, how it's called, flowers grow on what?
Pardon me?
No, you know, flower, dirt, how you call it, like
the dirt, soil.
Soil, yeah. It's like it comes from the word land or soil. So,
okay.
for example, you are from this region or like from Dagestan, and they would stick with each other, and like you know, in American prisons they separate like white, blacks, Latinos, yeah. So in Soviet army it was like that.
Jeez.
But still on government level, like there wasn't like racism and stuff.
Of course.
To each other. Yeah, and guys, I'm not even meaning that only like Russians hated like others. I mean, everyone could
hate
dislike each other. Yeah, but still, maybe it wasn't like that crazy. You see, even in Yugoslavia, after they collapsed, they started fighting with each other. Yeah, and Soviet Union collapsed, like many conflicts, like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, not even Russia, like Uzbekistan with Tajikistan wars, like something like that. But still, you know, in Asian communism, I noticed more nationalism actually. Look, for example, no, Pol Pot, I think, was like kind of nationalist, like Khmer. He wanted maybe some Khmer communist empire, you know. Ho Chi Minh, Vietnamese, I think he was also kind of a nationalist, like, you know, like we were Vietnamese, like, and Mao, I don't know, but for example, Stalin, no, in Stalin's times there was like some plan, I don't know, or is it true or not, but after the World War II finished, like to go to La Manche to conquer all Europe and make it communist until Portugal.
I see.
But they didn't think in case of like to make it like Russians only to rule. It's more words like communist world revolution.
Like
nobody
has a nationality.
Yes, like everyone is Soviet or communist or something.
I see.
But here I noticed more like nationalism, you know. Like
I know.
why do you think it's so? Maybe it's also because of your past history in Southeast Asia, not only in Cambodia but Vietnam, like everything.
I think it's just like the like an inability or the like not wanting to accept that, because you have to see like all these countries are very old countries. I'm not saying that Russia and all those countries are like new and everything, but you have to see like countries in Central Asia, they had their own thing, right? They involved, but they were never like a centralized country, like Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, all
Yeah,
these
they
Central
would
Asian.
argue.
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, but I'm saying like you were part of the Russian Empire, right? The Tsars were the ones who brought the Cyrillic letters to Central Asia, and brought that. But when you, so that means like I'm not saying that means. I'm saying like these countries and these regions did not had institutions and did not had like their own defined culture, because these people are nomads, right? They were nomads.
You know what I also maybe could add, that I think like long centuries ago they were maybe even more developed than Russians in some ways.
Yes, yes.
Their countries existed like countries like with different names, like not even countries,
Like
but kind of
tribes or
some things,
horde.
while like Russians kind of just didn't do anything.
I know.
But it's just some countries like have best times, like Khmer Empire, like
Yeah,
it
we
was
have our
the
good times, you
the
have the bad
greatest,
times.
strongest, but now like
Yeah, we have
Cambodia
our
is
good
good,
time and our
but
bad time.
yeah,
Yeah.
good country, but I mean not
there
as
were worse
powerful.
situations before.
Yeah, okay, that's continue. Like, sorry
Yeah.
for interruption.
But like that's the thing, like, but for us, we've existed for some like a long time, and it's pretty defined. As long as with the Chinese and the Vietnamese, so when you are dealing with like countries where society knew and a population knew what they're from already, I don't think it's easy to like exist thousands of years of like tradition and culture. And what are Asians mostly known for? Tradition and culture. You think we're gonna get that overnight for an idea, a fancy revolutionary idea of like getting rid of our culture and just joining everybody else? No. That's the thing.
I think maybe it also depends how long. You know what? Maybe I agree with
Yeah,
you, but
then
also I think, yeah, they, how to say, for example, look, I noticed Cambodia, Laos, like Laos still communist
yeah,
kinda, but they still have strong like religion, traditions, as you
that's the
say.
thing.
But in Vietnam, I would say like still mm, they're like late Soviets.
Yeah.
They believe in Buddha, like they put sometimes like this,
Yeah.
in hotels, like.
Yeah, but their Buddhism is different.
But it's not like that massive there,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know. So I think they just lived longer under the communists, and yeah, maybe for example, Ho Chi Minh became like this nationalist because like just he thought like, if I won't be nationalist, Vietnam won't exist at all, something like
Yeah, that's
that.
the thing.
We will still be some colony, like, yeah, maybe that's why. And in Cambodia, maybe similar.
The funny thing was that Ho Chi Minh didn't look to communism first when he.
Yeah, he asked Americans to help,
Yeah,
I found
but
out.
America didn't, and so the thing is,
You see, guys, you wouldn't have the Vietnam War if you helped the Ho Chi Minh, but it's your fault, Ho
It's
Chi
your
Minh
fault.
asked you first, because Ho Chi Minh, I read that he was a big fan of American Revolution.
Yeah,
like
he
was,
was.
wow, Americans fighting
He
with
was.
colonialists like British, but
Yeah.
Americans turned their back to
Uh,
Ho Chi Minh, and he turned to the Soviets and Chinese to
Communists.
communists. Wow,
I mean,
yeah,
like,
I didn't know this way about it before, but now
no,
I
I
know.
was surprised too when I learned about this, and like he adored, like he contacted, like Franklin D. Roosevelt as early as like with Roosevelt and like American presidents, but like he when he became in his political stage and everything, his political career, in his early stage, he tried to contact. You have to try a little
Man,
more.
how is it?
Like yeah, like. Seriously need to get a new lighter.
Okay, supply gas to Cambodia.
Oh yeah.
They will give you rice and you supply gas.
Yes, sir. Free gas. I mean, yeah, but we were talking about like, what are we talking about?
No, Ho Chi Minh asked America.
Yeah, he
Roosevelt.
asked. Yeah, but the thing is, America had like he wrote letters to the American president, and the American president Truman at the time wanted to
Truman.
pay. Yeah, he wanted to pay attention to Ho Chi Minh and what he was saying, but the CIA and the FBI keep sabotaging, like disturbing the mail before it got to the president.
Really?
Yeah, he did. They did.
Wow.
They did this, and so what did out of all choices, what did Ho Chi Minh have against like the French? The French was coming back after the Japanese, and what he wrote in his memoirs, what sins did the Vietnamese people do to receive such punishment, to be colonized by the Japanese, now the French, like the Japanese, like the French and then the
Japanese, like I also learned it recently, when they conquered all of the Southeast Asia, they let French to rule. They like stay in power kinda, but no, Japanese were the main guys, but still French colonial administration stayed.
It still exists, but it's because they had a deal, because it was not France, it was not Free France, it was Vichy France.
Yeah, because of Germany.
Invaded France, and that's the reason why it was in power. So Ho Chi Minh, when the war escalated, the first Indochina War escalated, France threatened the United States that if it went in the support and aid to Vietnam and Ho Chi Minh, that France would like turn to the Soviets, literally, overnight. So basically, Vietnam had no choice but to ask the Soviets for help, and the Soviets came in power, and the Chinese too. So that's
but also, you know what, south of Vietnam, like Mekong River, it was Cambodia before, yeah?
Yeah, I'm glad you know that.
Yeah, but also there was like some, because North Vietnam is where like original Vietnamese come.
Yes.
But there was like some kingdom also.
In Annam, Champa.
Champa.
Yes.
It's like
a Muslim kingdom.
So Vietnamese assimilated them.
Kicked them.
Now
most
you
of them
maybe have some small minorities
That's
there.
I told you yesterday that those were the people from there.
Yeah, just there. You know, I don't remember all the names.
No, I know.
Ayatuna, I remember from Thailand. You said Ayatuna.
Ayutthaya, yeah.
Ayutthaya.
Yeah, but the Jams, they came and asked the Cambodian kings for.
Van tipped $5. Time for a Baltica? Band, thank you very much. You know, Band, actually there will be next Friday or Saturday, I guess, night live stream. I know, guys, you are used to my freak version, but you know, I missed this smart conversation, so sometimes I want like to make this smart live streams and stuff like that. But Band, thank you very much. Yes, I know, Band, there will be content which you would like, and you guys also 7-Eleven reviews and stuff like that, but Band, thank you very much. Yeah, maybe let's check some last questions, yeah, because it's also different topic. No, we started talking, you know, about kingdoms, but communism, like,
communism,
food stamps. Man, like, you know, in Soviet Union there was like a problem with deficit of some stuff, of some goods. Like, can you
have too much of it.
Yeah, for example, let me just tell Soviet side and then you say Cambodian side. Like, one thing, for example, capitalist goods were many goods prohibited, like jeans, for example, you know, like in North Korea, jeans prohibited or something. And Anonymous, is it you also? Jeans. But even simple goods were in deficit, you know. For example, there is like some traditions, some older people still keep it. Like, they would buy some Grillage, it's French word maybe.
Grilla.
Grillage, you know, like,
Ashtray.
no, блять, forks, glass,
Like cutlery.
plate, like which would look good, but they would never use it. They would put it in the
Like China, like, yeah.
like, and they will, oh, don't touch it. It's only for a special day.
I see.
But this day never comes, so it
Yeah.
stays. Like I had it also in my apartment. We would use it maybe only for New Year.
Once a year.
Yeah, it's like or birthday.
I think the American word, it's like, for what you just mentioned, it's called China. I know, like, China's the country, but like China is described pot and like plates and things that you don't use, but you just put in like just for display. You call that China.
Why?
I don't know why, but that's what Americans
Maybe
call it.
Chinese do it like that.
Yeah, they used to, but yeah.
Well, so
Yeah.
I think it's also because of deficit of things. So people tried to keep some things like you know, because it would be hard to get another ones, you know. And as we mentioned, like you had to wait for a car for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I remember my grandparents kind of tricked the system. Not really tricked, so they had a kind of number in line for the car.
Really?
So you would
Oh,
have
yeah.
to wait like I don't know how many years. No, your line would, you know, number.
Move.
So my grandma worked in the polyclinics. You know this word?
Polyclinic.
Like
Polyclinics.
yeah,
Okay.
hospital for,
Yeah.
but not where you don't sleep, but you come.
Yeah.
So and her co-worker had this line come to them like to buy a car,
I see.
but they didn't have money to buy this car, so they exchanged this number in line ticket, yeah, something like that.
Really?
Yeah, so that's how my grandparents managed to buy Moskvich Soviet car, but they also didn't have enough money, so they asked all of their like relatives and stuff like that, and they could buy this car. And when I was a kid, still like in 90s, you know, it was 100 apartments building, and there was like maybe my father had car like maybe 4 cars only.
I see.
But in Soviet times, I think my grandfather had only one car, and no one else had, you know.
The car.
But now it's like many cars.
Of course, because
You
of
know,
capitalism.
yes. But what kind of things? And yeah, some people would sell illegally some Western
Like,
goods,
like,
you
yeah,
know,
the black
music, like prohibited capitalist music,
like
you know,
luxuries.
like we talk John Lennon, how it's called?
Yeah, John Lennon, Yoko Ono,
Beatles,
the Beatles,
yeah, and my father and like I saw some pictures. He stands with like some of his friends, and they all have like long hair like that, like Beatles, you know.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, this generation got older now, and they often criticize the youth for their look. Like, wow, you wear some hairstyle, it's not proper hairstyle, you know. But if you look at their youth, they had this long freaking
they
hair.
were doing their own thing.
Now in Russia, no, not many guys wearing long hair.
Yeah.
But those times, like in early 80s, maybe 70s, many guys would wear it. And you know, I'm pretty sure they were criticized for that.
Of course.
But now they grew up and they criticize others
I think it's just
for even not that
much of a alteration.
Yeah.
I think it's just because the older some people get, the bitter that they get. I don't know why that is a thing.
I think maybe it's nature of humans, like
the older people get, it's just the bitter that they get.
The good old days, like something like that.
It's because like maybe it bring up to their mind if they could have, if they should have, if they have done, or oh, I'm missing this. And it's because that they're at that age already that they couldn't do what you're doing right now. And I guess it's because you're only young once, you're only old once, and you only die once. I think we never can grab that. It's a generational thing.
But you know what? Also, despite some people think that Soviets had beards, but in opposite, in Soviet Union, there was a culture of shaving yourself. Only mustache was kept popular, yes. But
it's seen as lazy, no? Don't you think?
Maybe, I don't know actually, but yeah, it's like clean, lazy. But in Russian Empire, beards were popular.
Of course.
Also religion and stuff. But now historically in Russia, many people wore beards.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
only one Tsar from
Tsar
Peter the
Peter.
Great, yeah,
Yeah.
he forced people to shave.
What a man.
Yeah, but it was just short period of time, kinda.
Because
But
he wanted to modernize Russia.
yeah, like West, he, as we say, built, cut the window to Europe.
Yeah, he
you know.
opened the window to Europe.
Yeah, but we literally say like broke
The window.
the like wall window. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
but. But now this fashion of beards in Russia coming back, you can see like guys with beards.
Yeah.
But usually they take care of it. I don't do it like. But
Yeah.
you know this like beautiful beard. And this sometimes even I walked with a beard, even though it's like traditional Russian thing. If you look centuries ago,
Yeah.
some granny would come, why you wear this beard? You know, like they would come to me, you look like a terrorist, like
Yeah.
you know, something like that. So, but yeah, let's ask you like what maybe deficits, you know, if you had something in Cambodia in communist times.
We had like a deficit of almost everything. Like food was like in scarce demand, so I don't think.
Yeah, I already understood you kinda you had tough
Like,
times, short, no, like not that long ago, like you know.
Yeah.
But we also had tough times, even World War II devastating, but it was long time
Yeah.
ago. So
But
I'm like guys more talking when I talk about Soviet communism. I'm talking about maybe more late. What I've
like
heard
post
from my
80s,
parents,
yeah.
grandparents, you know.
But for us, it's just there's nothing like good to talk about it. Like
Wow.
it had to so extreme, and it only like destroyed us a lot more than give us any benefit at all. Like there's no collectivism, there's no benefit, or there's no positive thing I ever knew that came out of like communism for
Wow,
Cambodia.
crazy. It's like, you know, sometimes you can see in the West, in America, some communist students, like literally communists,
Yeah.
who love like
They haven't
Stalin.
lived
They
in a
have
communist
to
society.
come to see museums of communism here, like
Yeah,
to understand how
like
it
you
can look.
really have to. Like for us, we can't like. There had been like kids who and people who said that they didn't believe that Pol Pot existed, or like
Oh wow.
they support Pol Pot and whatever the hell.
Yeah, yeah.
But we like the older generation, they really want to kill like these people, like the fanatics and everything.
But in Russia, it's kind of opposite. I would say many people miss
The Soviet
communism.
Union.
Yeah.
But that's not the case for us because people remember like in Cambodian, Pol Pot is his name, right? But we call him A Pot. A is the condescending. Like if you like your name Sergey, if somebody were to call you A Sergey, that means that they curse you. Like they're calling you like lower than anything, right?
But
So that's
are there still some Pol Pot fans in Cambodia?
Yeah.
Yes?
There is, unfortunately, and that's what makes people angry.
But how many do you think?
Not that much, but like at least I would say like 0.8 to 0.9 of the population still believe like Pol Pot did the right thing and whatever. Fanatics, man, they're out of their head with that one.
But yeah, you know, in Soviet Union there was limited information. So I think one of the reasons why older people miss it and compare, wow, it was so good times, but because they didn't know what was bad happening.
Yes,
For example, my grandfather was attacked on the street when he was coming back. They broke his nose. But now this news, at least if it would be some brutal attack, you know, this news could end up at least in some local newspaper on social media, at least something like that, you know. But those times it was all hidden information. So if it didn't happen to you, it doesn't
concern you.
Yeah, they would think, wow, I don't know what's bad happening, you know, because like okay, it happened in another neighborhood, you know, but you will never know about it. Or like Chernobyl accident, they were hiding it for unless it would be impossible to hide. Like wow, everything is nice, there is no nuclear catastrophe, you know.
Until the radiation gets out.
Yeah.
But there's a good movie called Child 55. I think it's a English movie again, played by Tom Hardy, and it's him playing as a KGB officer or NKVD officer who were charged of looking, because there were dead boys starting to appear across the Soviet Union, so that there was a serial killer in the Soviet Union at the time.
Chikatilo.
I think so, yeah, we were talking about. And this, but because, like, there was no, according to communism, like, to the Soviet Union, there was no murder in paradise, right? There was no, there was no.
They were saying that in communism serial killers
don't exist.
Yeah, don't exist because it's a capitalist thing.
Yeah.
Like, because if killer will kill you only for profit, like for money, to steal money.
That's not the case, is it? Right?
They would think it's like capitalist thing.
Yeah. But that's why.
Yeah, they were hiding serial killers for, like, no one knew, but only in Perestroika times when Gorbachev got in power, like all the serial killers appeared, but they existed before.
But just imagine.
But general public didn't know,
Yeah, but just imagine Perestroika existed in Khrushchev's time. It would changed everything.
You know, in Khrushchev times there was some kind of perestroika after Stalin, so it was called differently though.
But it's not as much as perestroika.
Yeah, not as much, but still for those times after Stalin ruling for like 25 years or something. Yeah. Well, Putin will be soon longer than Stalin, but it was called. I forgot exactly, but kind of softening something.
Destabilization.
Yeah, destabilization, but ottepel also. Ottepel, it's, you know, when after the winter it's like becomes warm, but not too much, a little bit, and spring. Like spring, but not too warm.
I see.
So you know, so it started melting, but not like perestroika, so a little bit slowly.
I see.
Yeah, serial killers. Yeah, there were crazy serial killers, but America capitalists also had, but they just didn't hide it, but they had many serial killers.
Yeah, they had a lot, like in the 70s. I'm following up with like the CIA and what their connections with serial killers actually. The CIA did experiment with people with drugs like LSD and everything. And like Charles Manson is a cult leader.
I know Charles Manson with his long hair.
Yeah, he's involved with the CIA.
Really?
Yeah, the CIA run experiment, gave him LSD, and he did all that crazy shit because of that.
Well, that's I don't know, because I tend not to believe in some conspiracies. Yeah. It could be, but I don't know.
I'm not there, you know.
But still in capitalist America there are many serial killers.
But somebody's super chat and asks, Zach, what do you think of Putin?
Well, okay, Lizzie, if someone will super chat, yeah, but today let's keep to communism.
Yeah.
2 USD, 1 liters in Russia. They thought the Soviets had developed mind control, so they were like, oh shit, we need that. That's confirmed.
Yeah, that's what I was talking.
It's in the movie. But is it the kind of movie on the real events, or like Hollywood?
At this point, they have not confirmed that all this is thing, but they have declassified, meaning that they have released information that these things did happen.
Well, in that movie, you mean?
What?
No, I think she means mind control. Elizabeth Baby, nah.
No,
I don't believe in this stuff. They control through propaganda, fear, but I don't believe.
Like that's the thing. The whole, it's not, you think mind control is literally about
like magic,
but it's propaganda, literally. What you like, it's marketing propaganda. When it's for companies, it's called marketing. But for like the government, how they design whatever is to control your mind.
I see. I just thought it's about some super
oh yeah, they did that as well. Like MK Ultra, it's a project literally that they proved that they tested drugs on people. LSD, they gave people LSD, and the thinking was that those people can read through mind and do telekinesis, and like they could do some superpower stuff.
Wait, was it in Soviet Union?
It's in America, not in the Soviet Union.
America.
America thought that the Soviet Union had that, so that America in return had the project.
Okay, I just all confused because I thought you talk about that movie you said.
No, not the
But
Death of
that
Stalin.
movie, no, not Death of Stalin. You
Oh,
said.
the Child 55.
Yeah.
No.
What is it on real events?
Yeah. Serial killer in the Soviet Union.
Ah, okay.
And I think
Just
it's
actually, you know, I don't really like Hollywood movies about Soviet Union because they kinda for me, since I know this culture a little bit, you know, they overplay it sometimes.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, Russians don't smile, but they don't walk like this or like tell you like this.
With a frown or
Yeah,
something.
like it's over exaggeration. But it's hard to. Maybe they have to hire more like Russian advisors to help to recreate this culture because. Yeah, but it's the same if Russians would film like some movie about Americans, like we would fail, I think.
I know. It's everyone is trying to play their role.
Uh-huh. Ah, convert CIA
Yeah,
program.
that's the one. I'll take the brush in a minute.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Lisa worried by me, but go. Lisa worried by me, it was you. This. You still wants to get into power using mind control. So I don't know that Sergei assertions that Eastern countries were more nationalistic is correct. Albania fell off with the Soviets for that reason. Albania, I think they had more problems not with Soviet Union but with Yugoslavia because Tito maybe wanted to get Albania into Yugoslavia, but they didn't want. So it's more. I think some Westerners confuse like Yugoslavia as Soviet.
Yeah, no,
but it's not a Warsaw Pact. Warsaw Pact was like, and some people think, for example, Poland was part of Soviet Union, but it wasn't. It's like just Soviets. Or like big brother kind of like Warsaw Pact. Again, Warsaw Pact is like NATO, like security pact.
But everyone is under chains by the Soviets.
Yeah, Bulgaria,
East
and
Germany,
stuff like that. Albania,
Czechia.
Yeah, they had more problems with Yugoslavia because they had, I forgot his name, the dictator, communist dictator in Albania. Hoxha.
No, I think Albania's problem was just Hoxha. Hoxha was.
He was addicted to building these bunkers.
Yeah, I know. He built. He was. I think Pol Pot and Hoxha talked. I think they were a little bit like two Cocos. Like those two. Yeah, they make good friends. Hoxha and Pol Pot.
Well, you see, every like communist leader had some obsession. I think.
Yeah, I think
like Hoxha of building bunkers because I think he was afraid of actually not even Western countries maybe invasion. Maybe Western
from Yugoslavia,
too. Yeah, from Yugoslavia, from another communist country.
Okay.
Yeah. Then, for example, Nikita Khrushchev in USSR, he was addicted to corn, you know. It's failed campaign. He went to America.
Corn.
Yeah,
corn.
To grow corn. Like he went to America to buy corn to grow it in Soviet Union, but it failed because we have like colder climate.
I see.
And it's
maize,
it was like even not hunger, but it was big problems after this project.
A famine.
Yeah, no, not big, but problems like
issues.
Well, Chinese, some of Chinese, I don't remember. Maybe Mao, on Mao time, they started to kill sparrows.
Yeah, I heard of that.
And then they started to buy sparrows in Soviet Union because too many worms started eating
the crops.
But they thought, okay, we kill sparrows and will be better harvest.
Mao was a dumbass for that one, actually. Because
it wasn't his idea. I don't know. Maybe it's just
it was his idea because he felt like because the premier of the time was Zhou Enlai, and he felt like his power was already dying out, Mao Zedong. So using whatever power he has left with an influence he have left with the Chinese students at the time, he used that influence to implement the Cultural Revolution that killed so many people so that he could stay in power. The whole thing about the Cultural Revolution was so that Mao Zedong could stay for another 4 or 5 years. And all the people who were involved in those plan, they were later trialed by the Chinese government afterwards.
But some, I saw the news, some cultural revolution woman worker, she still lives in America, works in the university, but she's like, probably she made some crimes.
Yeah, that's just what I'm saying. These people are still walking free, some of them.
Yeah, you know, guys, we're gonna finish soon when we finish cigarettes, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, but while we smoke, what I wanted to say...
Oh, afterwards, when we close, before we close, could I play like a Victor Soy song?
Copyrights. If you sing
Oh,
it yourself...
Oh, fuck, really? Yeah.
If you sing it yourself, it's good.
Yeah, no, I couldn't sing Russian. I forgot YouTube has copyrights.
Yeah, but...
yeah, what were we talking?
No, actually, I think... Yeah, we talked about addictions of the dictators, so sparrows. But actually, I didn't understand your response about sparrows. You started to talk about cultural revolution, but not... It was good thing, interesting thing which you said, but it wasn't about sparrows.
The sparrow was part of the Cultural Revolution.
Like sparrow was enemy of the people.
Yeah, literally, he was like.
Oh my god.
He did that. Like the part of the Cultural Revolution had something to deal with killing sparrows.
Because it sounded like so.
Out of hand.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but
well, sparrows, guys, are enemy of our dictatorship. We need to kill all the sparrows.
He just gave like a good non-excuse because he couldn't find any good excuse. So to kick off the Cultural Revolution, he started killing sparrows and shit and whatnot.
I even saw these posters, like some farmers shooting the communists, like posters shooting sparrows, like in something written in Chinese, like we need to kill
sparrows
for our future.
Yeah.
Like,
and it wasn't only
God,
like
I feel bad for those sparrows.
The worms or anything.
Sparrows are number one enemy. But Pol Pot, maybe he had some addiction, weird addiction. Can you remember?
Oh shit.
Except like, no, some evil stuff, but something weird maybe.
Not that I've heard of.
Well, I think his stuff, what he did already, was too much, maybe sometimes.
Yeah,
if you think. But
I mean, I don't know if I think he married or something, but the dude's pretty normal. He's just not right in the head when it comes to communism. But
yeah, I saw his like late interviews. He's like smile, like Winnie the Pooh, you know, like very
calm and everything.
Yeah, but
I don't think he has a weird addiction, except for like the fact that he's just a cuckoo in the head.
Like Tito, you know, I know he smoked cigars in like a White House in America.
Really?
Yeah, they said like the American president, I don't remember who, said like, whoa, we don't smoke in the White House, like, and Tito said something like, I am happy for you, something like that, like, we don't smoke, like I smoke.
It's unfortunate for me.
Yeah, maybe he said, it's unfortunate for you, something like that he said.
But you know Tito and his personality.
He was like, badass, kind of.
He was like a baller. He was a guy.
Last question, you reminded me about the hairstyle. Did you have, like, you know, in North Korea, as I know, probably they have like some list of hairstyles.
21 hairstyles.
21?
Yeah, there's 20-something hairstyles that was only permitted in North Korea.
So, for example, now in Cambodia, I noticed the fashion, you know, they cut my hair like this, like this longer.
If you come to Cambodia, this is the haircut that you get if you're a white dude, because we don't know how to cut your hair.
But you know, I like how they cut.
Yeah.
And also you have much more male hair cutters. In Russia, it's mostly women.
Really?
Yeah.
No, for us it's like male.
In Russia, it would be considered like a woman job.
But you don't.
There are men now who cut hair, but it's usually like we call them barber shop, and they charge you like 5 times more. Like you know,
They know their market, basically.
yeah, but most of hairdressers are women. It's like woman's
For
job
us,
kind of.
it's
But here in Asia, you know, it's opposite, men mostly.
Because I think women wouldn't know how to cut or hair.
Yeah, and women, mostly babushkas cut my hair in Russia. But here men cut my hair and
And
they're
then you
more
get-
satisfied.
Yeah, you get something like
I
what a
look
man would
cool.
want to get.
They maybe know how men should
Want to
look.
look, yeah.
Yeah, wanna
Yeah,
look.
that's the thing.
But did you know
No.
if you had some, maybe in Soviet times?
Not for the
Like
hair,
if you
no.
would had long hair, would they call you, wow, you are like some
No.
capitalist debauchery, something like that?
I mean, it's wild because Cambodia, earlier than that, we had a period called the Republican period. So during this time, we were influenced by a lot of American culture and a lot of Western culture. So this period of time was free Cambodia. Um, so yeah, you got a lot of cultural phenomenons like the hippie phenomenon happened here in Cambodia. Psychedelic music was coming to Cambodia in the 70s. So you got a lot of hippies with like long hair and like different clothing styles. Like, you know how hippies dress with their curvy pants and everything. Those people, when the communists, the Pol Pot, like the Khmer Rouge, walked in and saw those people ceased to exist the next day. Like they were killed, literally. But afterwards, during the communist period of Pol Pot, hair wasn't put so much emphasis, but clothing was. Everyone weren't allowed to wear color. If you had color, you mean you had your own personality. But in the new Cambodia, everyone is the same, so everyone had to dress black, given like their own krama, which is a scarf, and that's it. But then, oh yes, but the hair thing is only for women. You see, now for my generation, we make fun of women who cut hair like short hair. Not that much fun anymore, but I like to make fun of it because if you cut your women in Pol Pot's time had to cut their hair by their neck. Like,
wow.
like
Because everyone should look the same.
almost, yeah, but women had to, be decent and not be infected by Western culture. So they had to cut their hair
That's what
short.
also he was, I think, Pol Pot.
Yeah.
Western culture he hated.
So
That's
much,
why
yeah.
he sent the people to the village, because cities
Were a evidence of Western influence.
wow, it's crazy.
But during the Soviet times, when like the Socialist Republic of Kampuchea, I don't think there was anything. Better effect, because you had Perestroika in the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
It for us, we did not have like Khrushchev's or anyone's communism, but we had Gorbachev, and then like for us, the hippie movement started to come back. In the Soviet, in 80s Cambodia, people started to get longer hair, started to dress like
By
hippies
the way,
again.
I knew about the timing that Gorbachev came in 85, but before that there were two who died, Chernenko and like, now I forgot.
This guy.
They, after Brezhnev, there were shortly two general secretaries. But yeah, I didn't think about it, but yeah, Soviets weren't like that tough anymore.
And people started to dress like Victor Soy. Here, you could look at people, guys who dress in the 80s here, they look like Victor Soy. It's like they're long.
Because he was popular here, or
I wouldn't say so, but everyone just dressed looking like him.
Okay, guys, I think we'll finish. So maybe you sing some Victor Tsoi in the end.
No.
At least what you remember, something. Ten, 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 ten. You
No,
know,
this is a cigarette and then
if you have a pack of cigarettes, если есть в кармане пачка сигарет, значит все не так уж плохо на сегодняшний день. И билет на самолет серебристым крылом, что, взлетая, оставляет земле лишь тень. You see, guys, the communist singer sang about pack of cigarettes.
Yeah, you should do the sign off where, like, you know how Victor Sor just like lit the cigarette and he just walk away.
Ah,
Yeah.
well, it's like from some movie
Yeah.
where he beat someone.
Yeah.
The communist, you see, pack of cigarettes was like solid thing. So I'll translate first. If you have a pack of cigarettes in your pocket, that means it's not that bad for today. And the ticket to the plane. I forgot. It's like translating in my head. Okay, guys, thank you. I think we'll finish. Yeah, thanks, Zach. Again, we even beat, I think, yesterday's record. But you respond very widely.
Range,
yeah. No. I mean, your responses are very knowledgeable and wide. So, I mean, but thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you guys also for, even though we make today the live stream about communism, but thank you for your capital support, and those who wants to support channel The Communist Way and push likes, and Laila, the Filipino queen of super, thanks for your fruit, Seriously. Yes, Laila, I am now no have fruits anymore.
Yep.
Wow, Laila, thank you. Wow, first secretary. Yeah, goodbye. Maybe in Russian you say goodbye.
Пока.
До свидания.
Oh, I'm sorry. До свидания.